Welcome to the world's shortest time management guide, and today I'll be speaking about goals and priority, benefits, mindset, CPF method, techniques, procrastination and distraction, different intervals, and advanced tips. So let's begin right away. At first, we have goals and priority. In terms of goal, what you have to do is you have to identify exactly what you want to get done. For example, there is a 3-hour block of window for you to study, and you don't even know what you are going to study. That means among those 3 hours, you are going to waste the first hour figuring out what to do. The second hour you are going to waste on distractions and procrastination. And the third hour, when you finally sit down to work, you are not going to be able to work. And the only reason you wasted those 3 hours was that you did not have a clear goal in mind. And then we have priority. Now, I have been tired of saying this over and over again that only one thing can be at the top of your to-do list. Recently, I was reading a book called Essentialism. The author said the exact same thing that I have been saying for the last couple of months about priorities, that not too many things can be at the top of our list. Nowadays, people think that we can do it all, and people think that there are 3 priorities, 4 priorities, 5 priorities, but it does not work like that. The plural form of priority is not even a word, because priority means that particular thing is at the top of your to-do list and you have to get it done right away. Now let's talk about benefits. So, you will physically make more time in the day if you follow time management. Because what does time management mean? It means managing your time efficiently. That means the task that previously took you 3 hours to do, for example, that study session I just talked about, where you just wasted 2 hours, and most probably even the third hour also, you are not going to waste it because you are going to have a clear roadmap. So you will be physically making more time in the day. Number 2 is you will work less overall. That means your efficiency will increase by a long shot, because 3 hours of shallow work is very poor compared to 1 hour of pure focused deep work. And last but not the least, you will get shit done, unlike most people, because most people nowadays are just busy, not productive. There's a huge difference between the two, that is being productive and being busy. Being busy is just getting overwhelmed with shit, and being productive is actually getting the shit done. Now let's talk about mindset. Instead of having a one-day mindset, you have to adopt a day one mindset. That is, not in one day, but it is a continuous journey. So what do I mean by this? What I mean is, you are trying to manage your time. It is one of the greatest skills in the entire world, and it is not going to happen on the first day. For example, if you can't even do 15 minutes of deep work, you can't expect yourself to do 1 hour of deep work just right away. You have to train yourself. You have to progressively overload the thing. You have to do things little by little, one step at a time. Here is a fun one, that is making versus sticking. Making a schedule is very easy. It's the recipe for procrastination. It's because, just really think about it. What does it take to make a new schedule? You will open up your calendar, you will arrange those blocks of times around, or else you will open a spreadsheet and you will write what are the things you have to do, or you will use any random apps to do whatever you have to do, and you will just get lost in those things only, because you're trying to get the new software, the new technology to get things done for you instead of actually doing them yourself. You're trying to delegate the task without even knowing what the task is. It's not like I'm speaking out of thin air. It was one of my biggest problems as well, because I used to change my schedule so many times and I could not even keep up with it, because I would change it every single week and sometimes even twice a week, because it felt so easier. It felt like, yeah, this new implementation of my schedule could work very well. But what I did not understand was, if I had just stuck to one of those schedules, I will have improved by a long shot right now. As you know, humans make mistakes and they learn from those mistakes. So now I have only one schedule and I don't change it no matter what. Now, if something drastic happens in my life and I need to change it, that is a totally different thing. But in general, I am no more prone to those things. Like, if I feel I have too much on my plate, I will not go and change my schedule to make myself feel more productive. Another thing you have to keep in mind is the graph of success. By now, you probably have heard it a million times, but I will still repeat it again. That is, the graph of success is always exponential. It is never linear. You will not see a graph of success look like this in general case. It will always be exponential. Think of it as like this. You currently feel like you are not seeing any progress because you are putting in so much of the time and getting nothing. Whereas successful people are putting in a very little amount of time. For example, there is an entire book called The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. and that guy actually works 4 hours a week. So it might seem like they are not doing anything but still getting the results, whereas I am doing shit and I am not getting the results. So what you have to do is you have to look in their past. Once you look into their past, you will realize that they used to work 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 hours a day, and now they are able to work only 4, 5, 6 or 10 hours a week. So this does not happen overnight. You have to gradually increase your workload and then decrease it, because let's say you're studying for an exam. If you study 2 hours, you will not get anything done. If you study 16 hours, you will get a lot of shit done. But if you study 18 or 20 hours and compromise your sleep and all of these things, you will get even less results because you will be unhealthy. There is a sweet spot for success, and the more work you put in your early days, the more you can master the thing easily. There is a rule called the 10,000 hour rule, that is, it takes 10,000 hours to master a thing. Now what you have to understand is that 10,000 hours is not linear. They put most of the time of the 10,000 hours early in their life, the people who master the things, and then they put gradually lesser and lesser times as the time goes by. Now let's talk about the CPF method. Now CPF stands for Capture, Process, Filter, and this is what it basically does. Capture means write down all of the stuff you need to do. That is, make a to-do list, and a proper one. Don't make a to-do list filled with random crap. Don't make a to-do list where you have just star marked 4 or 5 things as your priority. Don't do that. Make a proper to-do list and write down the things in order of their importance. Number 2, process. Figure out your to-do list. Now what I mean is you have to use a priority sorting method. For example, the Eisenhower matrix, where you just divide your things on the basis of their importance and urgency. Or you can use different metrics like importance versus time it will take, importance versus the energy it will consume, etc., etc., to just see what are the tasks which demand the highest importance or the highest input from you, and which are the tasks that demand the least input from you. By now you should have already categorized your things into different blocks. But if you are not able to do it, go and check out the video above about Eisenhower matrix that I made. And now step 3 is filter, that is, shorten the list further. 2 things that you have to keep in mind are 80-20 rule and the one task work. Pareto's principle, more famously known as the 80-20 rule, basically states 80% of the output comes from 20% of the input. So you have to figure out your 20% of the input of the day and put all your energy into that task. That will most probably be, if you have classified them into the categories, the most important task. You will understand it better with the second analogy, that is one task per work analogy. Imagine you had to do only one task for one area of your life for the rest of your entire life. What would you choose? If you are a student, what would you choose if you had to do only one thing to pass your exams? It will be either studying the theory, if it is something like chemistry and social studies or something like that, and it will be practicing questions if it is something like physics or mathematics. Similarly, you have to choose one task that gives you the most ROI, that is return on investment, for your time and your energy, and you have to go all in on that task. Now let's talk about techniques. Number 1 thing you have to do is you should use a calendar if you are not using it. And if you are happy with organizing your shit in different kinds of ways without using a calendar, it's fine, but I highly suggest you use a calendar because it is genuinely life changing. I started using calendar in probably October of 2022 and my life has changed drastically due to this. I can still vividly remember how I used to schedule all of my things and schedule them in advance. For example, I had schools and I had to record videos as well. I had to do workout as well. I never knew what to do at what time. After I got the calendar app, I just immediately knew that I don't have to put my brain into this. I just have to schedule it and my future self will see the scheduled block of time and he will do the task. I don't have to waste my energy each and every day figuring out when to do what. Number 2 is break down tasks into smaller chunks. If you know what it means, then it's good for you. Otherwise, you can go and check out that video on your screen right now that talks about breaking tasks into smaller chunks, which is basically a cheat code to success. Number 3 is Parkinson's law of time consumption. Parkinson's law states basically that work expands so as to fill the time allotted to it. What does that mean? What that means is if you allocate 1 hour to a particular task, it will be completed in 1 hour. If you allocate 1 day, it will take 1 day, so on and so forth. What you have to do is use the reverse of Parkinson's law, that is setting deadlines. Let's say there is a task that normally requires you 3 hours to do, and that is 3 hours of shallow work. You can schedule it for 1.5 hours or 2 hours, and you will be able to do it because you have set the deadline and you will not procrastinate on it. Now let's talk about procrastination and distraction. This one's gonna be a fun one because this is literally so much relatable to each and everyone, including myself. Number one, identify the reason for procrastination. Everything has a root cause. If you are able to figure the root cause out, you will understand what you have to do. For example, I had a habit of watching memes every night before I go to bed. It was etched into my daily habits. So when I found out that all of this consumption is actually not beneficial for me, what I did was I tried to identify why was I watching memes before going to bed. It's because I had completed all the day's worth of work and I used to generally consume content before going to bed, that is watching YouTube videos and all. And I found out that since I had no interesting videos to watch, I went and watched memes. So what I did was, instead of watching memes at that hour of the night, I switched my schedule a little bit and I allotted that time for either journaling or planning out the next day. So in that way, that time is utilized more productively rather than watching memes. Number two is practice mindfulness, that is basically meditation. If you are more mindful of the things, you will actually understand that when you are getting a craving, when you are feeling like you want something which might be a distraction, once you practice mindfulness, you will be able to avoid those things. Most people nowadays don't even know that they are getting a craving and that they are indulging in something before it is too late. So once you practice mindfulness, you will be able to see yourself in a third person view that yes, I am going to procrastinate right now, so I should not do procrastination, instead I should work. Number three is minimize distractions. If you have still notification turned on, then I highly encourage you to disable those because it is not worth your time. Number two is different apps, and one trick I have for this is using the web versions of the app and logging out every time. What do I mean by this? Let's say you are an Instagram user and you use it daily. Instead of using the mobile app, what you can do is either you can use it on Chrome, both on PC or in phone, and log out after each and every session. So during the next session, you will have too much trouble to input your password, input your email and all, and it will cause a slight friction. And that slight friction will be able to give you enough time for your brain to think that, wait, why am I going to indulge? I should work. And this will help a lot. Number two is environment change, and I can't stress this enough how well it works. Now, if you're someone who can't move to a different location, for example, you might be still a student and you might be still living with your parents just like me, what you can do is you can move things in your room. And let me tell you a story with this one. So what happened was I got addicted to anime about in 2021. That time my study table, or from where I am recording the video currently, it was at a different corner of my room. And so I had associated myself and that table being there with watching anime. So what I did was, once I started self-improvement properly, I shifted that table to this location currently, and immediately I felt a change because I was no longer prone to distraction. It was like changing the location of the table changed my entire personality or my entire viewpoint towards everything. Sometimes these kinds of shit work like magic. Just trust me and do it. You will thank me later. Now let's talk about different intervals. At first, different interval means how long you should be working for, and here are the following things that I will recommend. For beginners, I will recommend the Pomodoro technique. It is still excellent. That is 25 minutes of work plus 5 minutes of rest. It's excellent for beginners but not for intermediates, because intermediates have a way longer focus span than 25 minutes, and realistically speaking 25 minutes is too much small. So if you are an intermediate, you should do ultradian sprints, that is 90 minutes of work plus 20 minutes of rest. It is also aligned with your circadian rhythm, which is your body's natural cycle for digestion, for sleeping, for different kinds of things. It's like your body's own clock. And if you're an advanced or a pro and you have a lot of focus, then you should of course do deep work, that is 180 minutes of work, and then you can take a 1 hour break. That is 3 hours work, 1 hour break, and you can repeat it 2 or 3 times a day. Generally repeating it 2 times gives you so much more work than those 25 minutes Pomodoro or 90 minutes intermediate ultradian sprints and all of these things, because if you are able to focus for 2.5 hours out of those 3 hours, you will get so much more shit done. And once you get to the level of deep work, there is no going back. You will look upon your previous self and think that I was stupid for not working this much efficiently. I still remember the day I did my first deep work session, and I was amazed at how much shit I could do actually. I previously thought that this much work was not possible for me, it will make me burn out and all of these things. I had so much limiting beliefs, but once I did my first deep work session, everything completely changed because I actually found out my limits and my capabilities. Now, sure, that first one was not that efficient, but still, I understood my own capabilities, and that is one thing everyone should feel inside themselves, that what are your capabilities? How much can you push yourself? Now, let's talk about some advanced tips. Number one is batching, number two is delegation, number three is flexibility. Don't worry, I'm gonna explain them. Batching is basically taking similar tasks and throwing them into one block of time. What I do is I take my journaling sessions and I take my planning sessions and I take my night brain dump sessions and combine them into one. So every night I do journaling sessions where I also plan out tomorrow, basically the next day, and also I brain dump so that next day my brain is fresh and it does not have any random memories. What you can do is you can group similar tasks. For example, if you have some chores to do, you can group all of those chores together. This will help you save more time because you will not be affecting your deep work sessions. Number two is delegation. Delegation basically means giving the task to somebody else. Now, delegation is not possible for everyone, that I purely understand, because not everyone has people beneath them to give task to. Here, what you can do is you can use AI for different kinds of tasks, for example, writing things or summarizing things. Other people for delegation can be your family members. You can give them the task and chores that you personally don't have the time to do. Now, that might sound like arrogant that you are not having the time to do family things and family chores, but sometimes when you are working hard for a specific goal, you are actually not going to have so much time on your hand. So, if you think it is within your ethics, then you can definitely give chores to your own family members. For example, you could tell your mother to make you some tea and bring it to your desk because you are working and you need a little bit of caffeine or something, but that completely depends on you. I have just given you the advice, I have just given you the knowledge. Now it's your task to implement what you have to implement. Number three is flexibility, and this is one of the most important things because people make rigid schedules which they aren't able to follow themselves, and then they end up procrastinating for a week. Why does that happen? Because they were not previously in the military, but they think they were. So they think that they will be able to do everything from day one. Previously, when I spoke about mindset, I told about one day and day one mindset, and most people think that everything will be done in one day. Most people think that even if they were undisciplined for the entirety of their lives, they will be suddenly disciplined like David Goggins because they just watched a random podcast or they just watched a random motivational video. This does not work like that, and what you have to do is you have to make your calendar and your schedule flexible. Let's say you had to revise your physics chapter number 5 today, and suddenly your teacher told you that tomorrow is going to be a test on chemistry. So instead of revising the chapter of the physics and wasting your time doing that, you should prepare for the chemistry test because that is more important. Now, if you are going by the traditional non-flexibility schedule, you will not be able to accommodate both of the things, and you have to pull out an all-nighter to do both, and you will score less on the test because you did not get any sleep. So you have to be flexible with your schedule. Now what you can do is you can watch the shortest guide to stop bad habits, or you can watch this video about simplifying the hardest skill to learn, which is the skill of communications, which is also one of the most valuable skills in the entire damn world. Because if you don't know how to communicate, you will miss out on so many opportunities in your life. As I always say, start if you haven't already.